Welcome back to the Flushman Dustin podcast. We have Tyler here, Nick, the champ, who he competed in a CrossFit competition this past weekend, and him and his partner won it. So, man, you gotta give him some cheering on that, right? Come on, give it up here.
Shit.
All right. So, but the main guest tonight is Matthew Puckett out of Texas. So super happy to have him on. He's got some good stories. We were talking before the podcast, and he's got some good shit to bring up tonight. So, Matthew,
what's going on,
Matt,
guys?
however you want.
Either one.
Either way.
I've been called worse. Either way.
I bet. So, yeah, give yourself an introduction, and we'll take it from there.
My name is Matthew Puckett. I currently live in Oklahoma. I am from Texas.
God, I thought you were Puckett from Nantucket. But...
No, sir, not that I know of. No, I guess I'm kind of known as the guy that got all of his stuff and dogs stolen. Now at this point, that's about it.
Were you famous before then?
No, definitely not. And if I was, it was for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's usually what we're famous for too. So, how long you been running bird dogs?
I got my first dog in 2007 when I was a senior in high school. I had a friend from church. They had a litter of German short hairs, and I got my first dog then, and have been at it ever since.
Did you get him baptized?
No. Thought about it. She loved to swim, but no, not that I know of. Never did that. That's a good idea. I probably should have done that. Got the demons out.
Yeah. So we were talking before the podcast. You have obviously you're running multiple dogs, and you got 4 pointers.
Yep, I have.
Correct, and you got a Brittany as well.
Yep.
So give the lowdown. What brought you to the pointer world, and what's up with just the one Brittany?
All right, so I had short hairs, and then I was brought up on Brittany's. When I was a kid, another guy in our church had nothing but Brittany's, and he's the one that kind of got me. His name is Davey Smith, and he's the one that kind of got me into bird dogs. I love to hunt, and I love dogs, and then you combine the two, and following a bird dog was a whole lot more fun than sitting in a deer stand to me. So when I got old enough to get my own dog, when I got old enough to get my own dog, I got a German short hair, and then in about 2013 or 14, I got connected with Ronnie Smith Kennels with Ronnie and Susanna there in Oklahoma, and they had some fantastic Brittany's. I ended up getting one, and he was awesome. His name was Merle, and sadly he got hit by a car at a pretty young age and passed away. Oh. But I went right back to him, and they had a repeat breeding out of the same breeding that they had, and I got Tonto, and then I had come across some pointers that I really liked, and so. Loaded up on some pointers, and still got Tonto, man. He's 5. He'll be 6 in March. Golly, time goes fast. So he'll be 6 in March, and so running a little bit of both. Overall as a breed, I think I prefer pointers, but if you were to ask me the best dog on my string, it would be Tonto.
Yeah, when we were talking on the phone earlier, just going over everything, you were saying how, and you can talk about obviously your dogs and your side by side getting stolen. We'll bring that up, and you were saying that if you didn't get Tonto back, you were going to burn down the whole state.
Yeah.
To get him back.
Yeah. I was texting a few people, and obviously you want all the dogs back safe and healthy and sound, but that particular dog, if that one didn't come back, it wasn't going to be good. Yeah.
So how'd that go down?
So all right. So we were headed to Arizona. Me and my buddy Philip Webster and Sammy Davison. We were all headed to Arizona for the first time, and we were going to hunt desert quail. And we decided to break up the drive a little bit and stop in. We were going to stop in El Paso, but decided that wasn't probably a good idea. So we had an even better idea that we were going to stay in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And so we stopped and stayed there. We got our rooms at the hotel, fed the dogs, and went to dinner. Came back, let everybody kind of air out a little bit, and parked the truck in a trailer in a pretty secure spot, or what we thought was a pretty secure spot. And then went inside and went to bed. And those two guys that I was with are a little bit older, and so they like to wake up at like 4:30 or 5 o'clock for fun. And I don't do that, especially on a hunting trip for no reason. So we decided 7:30 breakfast time, and at 6:45 they're pounding on my door, and I'm thinking those guys are just going to go get coffee or something. I'm gonna sleep in a little bit more. So I was messing with them. I kind of ignored them, and then they started blowing my phone up. And finally, I answered, and Sammy said, "Matthew, somebody stole the buggy off the back of the trailer." And Sammy,
you thought they were shit. You thought they were joking, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely, man.
I would have too.
Sammy's pretty straight laced, and so I never thought. He's pretty straight laced, but I thought they were joking for sure. And I said, I was like, yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'll be out of bed in a little bit. And Sammy said, no, I'm not kidding with you. Like they really stole it. And I was like, yeah. All right, Sammy. Well, I'll be out there as soon as I can. And it was Philip's voice in the background. And Philip said, I could just tell by his inflection and tone of voice, which Philip would have called. Philip is the guy that he would joke like that. And Philip was like, no, your dogs are gone. And I could tell by the inflection in his voice that he was really serious.
Jesus.
And I jumped out of bed, put clothes on, ran outside the front door, and looked to the right there where we had everything parked in the front parking lot there, and it was absolutely gone. There's not a whole lot that can prepare you for that moment where it really was gone.
The feeling is How are you feeling at this point? Were you pissed? Were you scared?
Man,
what was the emotions? Like I don't even know
shock.
what I'd be feeling at this point.
Pure shock, absolute shock. Like when you look on it was Philip's trailer, it was Philip's truck trailer and his side by side, and when I looked and it was gone, I mean, there's absolutely nothing that prepares you for that moment. I mean, the fact that you're just staring at the trailer and this entire really nice side-by-side that he had put a lot of accessories on. He had done a lot of work on. It had a really nice 6-hole dog box on the back, which, we only took that thing for two reasons. One, because between the three of us, we have too many dogs to haul all at once. And then two, once we got there, we kind of wanted to park, kind of pull off and park and then back that thing off and take it down all the gravel roads and really get back into some areas that other people typically wouldn't get into and hunt. We had done the same thing in Wyoming, and it worked awesome for us. And so we just said, hey, let's just run it back and do it in Arizona. And so I was in shock. I ran down to the room, went inside, and they're both sitting on their hotel beds, and they're both in shock, and they've already called the police. And I mean, I'm stunned, and I'm like, we got to figure, like, what are we going to do? And then Sammy said, well, Philip has that GPS on his mule. He had one on the mule and one on the trailer itself. And he said, we're trying to get a ping to figure out where exactly this thing is. And, I told Philip, Philip said, well, it pinged at 5:30 about 3 miles north of here in a field. And I said, well, we're not waiting on the cops. Let's just drop this thing and let's just go out there. And so we went outside. We all dropped the trailer, and poor Sammy sat on that trailer all day long. And, me and Philip took off and went to that, and it was just an empty field. And there were four-wheeler tracks all in it. Somebody had driven a side-by-side through it, done some donuts. And we spent the better part of that day scouring that entire area around there to see if we could see it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah. It was
crazy.
It was a living nightmare. I mean, it was one of those things where the police officers met us out there in that field, and they're trying to help us, and there's really not a lot that they could do according to them, and so you're stunned the whole time. Like, my dogs are gone. I've got 5 dogs, and 3 of them were on there, and Philip had 6 dogs on the trip, and he had 3 of them on there.
Paid a guy claiming that he knew your side-by-side was that, or your dogs. Yeah. You paid him, what, $750?
Yep. So we looked the entire.
How did you find this guy's number? He just texted you?
He found somebody on one of the Las Cruces. We had a bunch of friends posting in a whole bunch of different Las Cruces, New Mexico Facebook pages, and he found one of our friends that were on there and said, "I've got information. One of you guys needs to call me." So Philip and I looked all day long in every single backyard, house, shop, the whole 9 yards. We looked everywhere. Sammy sat on the trailer all day long, worried sick. And it was it was probably about 5 o'clock that that guy had messaged us. And so, which I called BS on it from the beginning, because that guy said, he said, "No, I've got your stuff." And I said, "Man, I talked to the guy on the phone, and I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, I just Googled your area code, and it shows Laredo, Texas." I said, "This thing's blown up on Facebook. How do I know you're not lying to me, just try to get money out of me?" And he said he literally sent us a picture of the side-by-side. Like, he texted a picture of us of it. Yeah, so.
Shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how far away was it from your hotel?
So he sent us after we paid him, he sent us 14 miles south, which was not accurate. Sheriffs beat us.
I bet you were like, "What the fuck?" at that point.
Dude, the sheriffs beat us down there, and they knocked open these people's gates, and they're shining their flashlights everywhere, banging on the front door, and they're freaking out. It was an older couple that had no idea what was going on. Went back to the hotel. We were pretty, we were at a pretty low point mentally. And then we're sitting there eating spaghetti in the hotel lobby, and Philip says, he looks up from his phone. He said, "Boys, I've got a new ping." So we talked about it, and had we gone there that night, we were worried that it was actually in somebody's backyard or shop or something, and we weren't going to be able to see it. And you can't shine, go out there shining a whole bunch of flashlights. You get the police involved, and they show up, and you get a police presence out there, and then that really spooks the people that have it, and then they can move it again. So it was the longest night of my life. I think I finally laid down around 1:30 and didn't get a whole lot of sleep. Was up at 5:30, and we went out there, told the sheriff where to meet us at 7 o'clock. They were not there. We decided to go ahead and go in on our own, and I think by like 7:05 we had found it.
Damn.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's freaking wild, man.
Dogs all good.
Yeah. Saw it across the desert.
Probably thirsty as hell.
Yeah, 36 hours in the box, and went kind of running across the desert.
What were the temps at?
I think the temps were only mid-40s, which
so not like
that's a good thing
for them.
No, it wasn't. And I had texted some people, and I asked my friend Ronnie Smith. I said, how long do these dogs have inside the box? Like how long do they have without food, water, or anything? And he said, you've got 3, maybe 4 days with good temps. And so,
you were pushing them.
Yeah. So we were at 36 hours, and we got to them, and ran up and started checking all the dog holes and checking everybody, and they were all right. We started letting them out one by one. All their dog boxes were still locked, and so we unlocked all of them, started pulling them out, and giving them water, and they all drank about half a bowl of water and kind of shook off and looked at us like, "Man, where have you guys been?"
Yeah. Like, we just went for the hell of a ride.
Yeah, we've had the tour of Mexico over here. What is going on?
Yeah.
So,
what'd they all take off the the side by side?
So
just ditch it?
they jacked up Phillips' ignition on it. They took the ignition all the way out to hotwire it, which we all learned that none of us know how to hotwire that thing back again to see if we can get it to run, because we could do it. They busted up some of the gas lines on it. I think they either ran it out of gas or siphoned all the gas out of it, which siphoning the gas out doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us, because there had to have been, I mean, that thing, my Can-Am has a 10-gallon tank, so say his is 8 to 10 gallons, there could have only been 4 gallons worth in there, right? But they siphoned all the gas out. They popped all the latches on all the storage bins on there. They took his kit to change out tires and that kind of stuff. They took my shotgun. They took my shotgun out of there, and then I think they took like Philip's dog boots. He had some new dog boots in there, and then they took all of our shells out and just a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. I had a Wingworks vest on there that they tipped over and dumped everything out. They took my Leathermans out of there and that kind of stuff, but they left the vest and they left the dog. I had a bunch of dog bowls on there that they left, and I had a leather lanyard that they left on there, and then a whole bag of Purina Pro Plan that they left. So they left that stuff and took everything else that they could off of it. Oh, and they took all of his lights off of it, cut all the wires, took the speakers off of it. They broke the winch when they actually took it. So they got what they got what they wanted.
Number, didn't they?
Yeah, well, we couldn't believe he's got really nice rims and tires on that thing. He took it down to Ranch Armor just south of San Antonio, and he's got a nice lift kit on it, nice front bumper on it, custom roof. I mean, he did. If you ever meet Philip Webster, this guy, if he's going to do something, he goes all in and he does it right. And they really didn't touch any of that stuff, and I couldn't. I looked at Philip and I said, I can't believe the rims and tires are still on this thing. But they were.
That's freaking wild. That'd be like, I mean, in some places you see cars jacked up on, on jacks, and people take the rims right off of them.
Well, the sheriff told us when we found it, the sheriff told us, he said, I've been doing this for 23 years in Las Cruces. I've never seen one of these things found like this. He said, typically, he said, first off, they spray paint them a completely different color. They spray paint the whole thing. And then he said, we find it like 4 or 5 months later in somebody's backyard while we're serving a warrant for something completely unrelated. And we find, we have to check the VIN number. So,
Jesus.
Yeah, that's crazy. You get in some of those like search warrants with, just going to say like, meth users and whatnot that are just high in the theft. God, sometimes you got onto those and it's like, it would take you forever to document all the stolen stuff from different cases, because it's like, they just have freaking everything.
Somebody told me I forgot who told me this, but they said not too long ago, a guy had he stole a Harley, he disassembled it, took it inside of his house and reassembled it for the most part, in his bedroom. And the cops served this warrant. There was a freaking Harley in his bedroom that he had reassembled it. So, I mean, it's stuff like that. And the whole time, man, you're sick to your stomach because you're worried, are they just going to, these guys, are they just going to
shoot your dogs?
My worst fear was, hey, man,
they're going to eat them.
Yeah, we have this whole thing, and I don't want to deal with the dogs. Let's just stick a pistol in there. Let's shoot them. Be done with it. Or, most of them that they have stolen in Las Cruces, they have just popped the latches and popped the locks and just turned them loose and let them out, let them go somewhere around town or in the desert.
So the sheriff said, this has happened multiple times, like people getting their dogs stolen?
The night that we were there, man, they took, there was, I think 4 or 6 cars stolen that same night out of various parking lots or homes. Since then, I'm still on all the I've been on all the Las Cruces pages, and now it's kind of like you just can't stop watching it because of all the stuff that happened. Dude, I sent a picture to Philip and Sammy the other day. They stole an entire crane off of a job site. Like a crane, a legitimate crane. They stole a crane off of a job site. And so I sent him a screenshot of this, and I told Philip and Xavier, I was like, "We're child's play at this point. They're still in cranes, like entire.
These guys are professionals.
150-foot cranes off of job sites. Like this is nothing.
Like, what are they gonna do with that shit?
Like, I don't know what. That's what I said to them.
You know, I'm just gonna go down the interstate.
Put it on market for like Facebook Marketplace. Like, hey, I've got this crane for sale. I just took it off of a job site. Like, I don't know what you do with that.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't think cranes probably have them, but like construction equipment, they have those super expensive GPS units on them.
Yeah.
That people can take off, and they can sell those for,
I don't know,
really good amount. But it's like.
It was gone.
What do they even have? It's like, what do you even have to be able to steal a crane?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of truck and trailer do you have?
Dude, I don't.
Bringing in a bulldozer?
I don't know. It was crazy. It was like, hey, this crane got stolen off of such and such road. And I was like, dude, like, I was like laughing when I saw it. I was like, they took an entire crane. Like, what do you even do?
Yeah.
What do you even do about like Bravo? How do you even
plan? How do you even plan to take that?
Exactly.
Like,
jeez, it's like the Italian job.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was.
Man, so do they? So let's say, would you go back there
to Las Cruces?
Would you stay in that? Yeah, would you stay in that town again? And bird hunting
no,
around?
Absolutely not. No, negative. I have some friends that live in Lovington, New Mexico, and they've got a really nice house. He's like the CEO of one of the co-ops out there, and they're great people.
Nice.
They've got 10 acres that's completely fenced, 2 locked gates and everything. And I'm like, that's the only place in New Mexico that I'm staying from now on. It will be a 1-day drive to Arizona from Texas from now on. I can assure you that.
Is there decent hunting around? Las
Cruces. I know some guys that have hunted around there. I mean, we went and had dinner, and it was some of the best Mexican food we had in a while. Like, all 3 of us really enjoyed it. It was a great place. And now Philip and Sammy talking to those guys, they're like, I can't believe it didn't get stolen at the restaurant, because that was way easier than the hotel that they stole it from. I mean, they drove it off the trailer with no ramps. There was a really high curb they drove it over. They drove it through a really low-hanging tree and then over 2 boulders that I never thought that they could get it over. And
you're just not as good at drivers as they are.
Yeah, shoot.
I was talking to a buddy of mine. He goes, well, it's really easy when you don't give a crap. So you just drive over the boulders. Like, if it high centers, you just jump off and run. If it breaks, you just jump off and run. If not, you have this thing that you can take apart and sell.
Jeez.
Man, where is that located? Like,
Las Cruces
according to the border.
Las Cruces is just northwest of El Paso.
Okay.
So it's a few miles.
Pretty far
it's
south.
A few miles off the border, but I mean, it didn't stop me from stopping a border patrol agent in a parking lot. And Philip and I were there, and I was like, "Man, just be honest with me. Is this thing in Mexico?" And he said, "Man, what these guys drive stealing it." He said, "If they stole it and they loaded it on one of their trailers and they try to take this thing across the border, they're like, we're going to see that and we're going to flag it. We're going to pull them over and ask for some information on it." He said, so this thing is probably still in New Mexico.
Jesus Christ.
That'd be just wild living in that.
Oh, dude.
Or being like an officer down there. Maybe.
Oh, those guys, they told us, the officer that had been in for 23 years, he said, man, when this state went blue, he said, our hands are really tied on a lot of things. And so, getting.
Probably no funding.
Yeah. No, well, so I told him, I said, man, we're going to Arizona, and we're getting even closer to the border in Arizona, like literally hunting. We went to Arizona. We were so close that I looked down at my GPS, and I actually had Tonto on the ground, and he was literally in Mexico. I'm like, hey, you got to come back on this side. Like, it's one thing to poach off of, like, on private land, but you're in a whole other country, man. You got to get back over here.
Yep.
And he told us, he said, man, Arizona's law enforcement and border patrol is incredibly stronger than what we've got here. He said they've got, 4 or 5 times the amount. And we had talked to people that had just been there, and they said that they felt safe the whole time. And while we were there, we didn't see anybody crossing the border, didn't see any illegals, nothing like that. We did see border patrol agents all over the place down there, and I felt far safer and more secure in Arizona than I did in New Mexico.
Yeah. Do you carry a pistol or anything when you're hunting in the desert that close to the border?
Typically I do. This trip, I actually did not have my pistol with me, which for several reasons I regretted that. Man, I don't know. I felt safe. I felt fine. I know one of my buddies, Randy Schultz. He was hunting down there a few years ago. Went out and did this big loop. Came back to the truck, and there was an illegal waiting there, and he had come across the border with some other guys, and they had left him in the middle of the night. He was thirsty and hungry, and Randy gave him some water and some food and gave him his phone. The guy called his wife, and he asked which way Mexico was, and Randy was like, that way. And he started walking.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be the desert's got to be interesting down there. Like, do you ever run across any old camps where people?
I found one old like little campsite deal where you could tell somebody had a fire going down in a draw. We were looking for Merns, and you could tell that somebody had a fire probably within the last month. But that was really it. I didn't see any trash. I know other people that have come across a lot of stuff. There's guys. I was only there for a week. Well, not even a week at that point, but I know a lot of guys that hunt down there quite frequently. They could probably tell you more stories than I could about that, but
it's just wild.
I went down to the King Ranch a few years ago, and I saw far more illegals down there in South Texas than I did in Arizona.
Huh. That is just freaking. It's just interesting.
Like in South Texas, we saw groups of 30 sitting on the side of the road that they were just handcuffed and ready to put on buses or vans and take them.
Really?
Yeah, it was that. That was a little wild. I'll be honest. I got down there and I was like, "Whoa, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto."
Yeah,
no,
that's just so weird coming. Like up here, you don't see any of that type of.
You see the stuff on the news, and it's like, oh, yeah, you like believe it, but
no, it's not. It's the real deal. It's the real deal.
Yeah.
South Texas was an eye-opening experience. New Mexico was an eye-opening. Arizona felt safer. It may have just been the day, time, and place. It may not be a great area that we hunted in, but where we were, it was beautiful. There was Border Patrol agents down there. We saw sheriffs, and we didn't see any illegals.
Yeah. Man, it's just an interesting situation to be in. And
I know a lot of guys that hunt that died down in South Texas, and they've got problems with trucks and stuff getting broke into on certain ranches. It's a real problem. It's not a joke.
Yeah. So do you normally travel with side-by-sides and trailers and whatnot?
We've got me and Philip are on a lease in West Texas. We've got 20,000 acres leased out there for Bob White's.
Only 20?
Oh, shit.
Well,
nice.
That's only half the ranch, actually. It's Texas.
Really?
It's Texas. There's a lot
everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more land to be had and a lot more bigger, larger ranches out there. So, we do have a lease out there, and we take the side-by-sides out there. We have hunted in Wyoming, and we took them there, and that worked out perfectly. You just find like kind of a central parking spot, back up in some hills, some mountains. You back those side-by-sides off, and you can take them down the 2-track roads. You have to stay on the roads. On the lease, we can hunt off of them, which is pretty custom in Texas. But out there, we took them, way back in some areas that a lot of guys would not get in a truck. And therefore, most of those times, those birds have not been hunted, have never seen another hunter or a dog or anything like that. So that was the reason we took it to New Mexico and Wyoming. We hunted north this season with Philip and Sammy, and we took the side-by-side there, knowing we probably wouldn't use it. But again, on that trip, I think we took 20 dogs, and so we had to have some way of hauling them. Yeah, we've got a bit of a problem. I took 6, and I think Philip took 8, and Sammy took 6. So,
how long are these trips that you guys normally go on?
Somewhere we leave and come back within, I don't know, somewhere around 9-10 days. Yeah, anywhere from 7 to 10 days, really.
It's a good trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do typically more than one a year?
I typically do 2 or 3 a year. We went up north this year and then went to Arizona, but in the past I've done South Dakota twice a year, and then gone to New Mexico. I've done Montana, South Dakota, and then again gone to New Mexico, Kansas. So it just kind of depends on where all we're going to go.
Yeah,
it depends.
If
the more birds that we have at our lease, back in the 2015, 16, 17, when the bird numbers were good on the lease in West Texas, my best day we did 42 coveys of bobwhites. And so
one day,
yeah,
one day,
in one day, in one day. And
what's the limits in Texas? Obviously bigger.
There's 15, but funny enough, me and my buddy that were hunting it that day, we decided to stop shooting birds after I think our fourth or fifth bird because it was slowing us down, and we wanted to see how many coveys we could find. Getting the retreat.
Yeah, in a day.
I did 42 coveys in a day. Yeah.
How long were you out there? Like all day?
That was an 8-hour hunt.
Man, that's crazy though. In 42, so you're seeing birds
looking
every...
back, I only had 2 dogs. I only had an older short hair at that time that was a bird finder, but she was getting a little bit older at that point, and I think I had a 5-month-old puppy that I think found like 7 or 8 of those coveys. It was Merle, the dog that passed away, but with the
was that before GPS?
No, it was right as the alpha had come out. It was I think the actual year the alpha came out is what we did.
Did you have it?
Yeah.
At that point, do you remember like how many miles by chance you walked, or how many miles the dogs did?
The dogs, we were rotating them so often. So when you're hunting off, so out there at the lease, we're hunting off the side by sides, which it allows you to do more than obviously you would on foot, because you're able just to drive across this huge ranch and roll fresh dogs out. When they get tired, you water them, you put them up, and you roll more fresh dogs out, and you just keep going. So that's really what allowed us to do that,
Yeah. Are you like on that, or are you kind of just let the dogs go and you just sit on the side by side and wait for them to go on? Point, and then you kind of drive up, or you actually.
So what we do is, if the wind's coming from the north, we go to one of the south portions of the ranch, and we turn dogs loose, and we drive. We would literally only drive 2 or 3 miles an hour through the ranch going north, and then if the wind's coming from the south, we start north. That's the benefit of it, is that you can run dogs into the wind the entire time. If you have to park a truck, then you can circle out and circle back around, but you can only get the wind in your favor half the time.
How the hell did you come across the lease down there? 20,000 acres.
Man, I got involved in Nastra, and which I don't run anymore, but I did back then in 2011, and a buddy of mine named Dustin Nelson. He invited me out there, I think in 2014, when quail started making a little bit of a comeback. Went out there and ran dogs with them, and I was like, this is incredible. And then 15, 16 was even better. I mean, it was crazy. We'd get back, and if somebody only found 15 coveys in a day, you were like, well, what are you doing? Are you even running dogs out there? What are you doing? And it was like guys were finding 28 coveys, 32 coveys. And a lot of guys can tell you, in Texas, I never thought that I would see those numbers. I always got to hear the glory days of the 80s and 90s where those guys were finding that, but I never thought that I would live through it. And then I did out there, and it was incredible.
Opened up the old checkbook and said, "Well, how much?"
Yeah, which that's still a lot of fun to pay every year. But now that birds are back down, it's a little humbling. But it's a great spot. We've got 3 houses to stay in on the lease, and
oh man, that's awesome.
We got an awesome little grill out there. We can all sit out there and talk about the day's hunt and run dogs. And the rancher basically has 2 rules: you shoot every coyote and hog that you see.
Yeah. Do they have a pretty bad hog problem where you're at?
Oh, yeah. I think the most that we've killed in one day, I think we killed 15 or 16 in one day.
Can you kill them with birdshot, or what? Do you have a rifle that you carry with you?
Most of the guys carry ARs with them.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I was gonna say, Philip has they must be pretty damn close to kill them with birdshot.
There was the most interesting time out there. It was me and Dustin. And we're out there, and I had a pointer named Sergeant, which is probably the nicest. He was an incredible bird dog, and he had Phoebe, and they're both on point. And so Garmin shows where they're on point. We're both walking up, and Dustin's behind me. And I could see Phoebe was right in front of me. And I look, and I could actually see the covey of bobwhites. And I'm looking at them, and both the dogs' eyes are kind of going from the birds and then looking up, the birds and looking up. And I followed their eyes, and I looked up, and there were probably 30 pigs right in front of me, maybe 40, 50 yards right beyond where the dogs were on point. And Dustin came walking in, and I said, Dustin, we've got a very big problem here. And I mean, they are just everywhere. And half the pigs are staring at me. The other half are just milling around, eating, grubbing, not paying attention. And so Dustin said, grab the dogs. And so he came in, and he grabbed his, and I grabbed mine. And we both led him back to the side-by-side and put him back in his mule. And this is where it gets a little Dukes of Hazzard-ish. He grabbed his AR, and he got up on the high rack seat, and he said, you drive as fast as you can towards those pigs, and when I bang on the roof of this thing, you stop, and I'm going to shoot. No problem, man. So I get down, put it in drive, put it in high, and I just punch it. And I'm punching it right at the pigs. Pigs start running everywhere, and you just hear bang, bang, bang. And kept punching it again, bang, bang, bang. I mean, we had pigs and piglets scattered all over this pasture. And then,
straight western.
Oh, man, they were going every freaking direction. I mean, there was another hunt that he and I were on, and there was a Brittany that he had a buddy of his. His name was Ted. And we ran, and we found a sow and a bunch of piglets, and the sow just took off and left them. And these piglets are pretty small. And I am not kidding you. All my life, we had 2 dogs come back and retrieve like piglets in their mouth, like they were like tiny little pigs.
So in July, we're supposed to have a national sales meeting in Dallas, and one of the guys on my team, he's from Texas. He came up and he lives in Cedar Rapids now, Iowa. He knows a guy that has a farm down there, and we're supposed to go down the weekend, so we'll leave go down Friday the week before and hog hunt out of a helicopter. Saturday, Sunday.
I've done that one time.
He said it's only like $600 a person for 2 days. I was like, that doesn't even seem too bad.
I was able to do that one time, and it was on. Do y'all watch Yellowstone by any chance?
Oh yeah.
All right. Yeah. So you know the 4-6's ranch that Jimmy's on now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the 4-6's ranch. Ronnie Smith and Susanna Love guided hunts on that ranch for years, and there was a I don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. Ronnie asked me if I would like to come down there with him for a few days, and so I was like, absolutely. So we went down there, and they had a pilot there with a helicopter, and then we were guiding hunts. And when the folks down there really didn't want to do either one, the pilot would just walk up to us or the cowboys with the folks working on the ranch and say, all right, who wants to go up in the helicopter and shoot pigs? And Ronnie looked at me and he said, you want to go? And I'm like, absolutely yes. Yes. And in about 45 minutes, we shot 48 pigs and 12 coyotes.
Dang.
What were you using for a gun?
So I had a 12-gauge pump that had an extended magazine in, so I had 10 shots. Ronnie was using the AR, and he was in the back seat. I was in the front. And the pilot, he was an older guy that had flown in a few wars, right? So this guy, he knew what he was doing. And he walked over and he had known Ronnie for years. They were really good friends. He was a great guy. He was hilarious. And he walked over to me and he said, you ever been in a helicopter before? I said, no, sir, I don't think I have. He said, all right, well, you're going to have an oh shit moment when we take off. And I said, awesome, can't wait. And so they had kind of asked me, do you get motion sick? And I'm like, well, if I'm riding like the back seat of a car, I can. And so Ronnie was like, well, you take the front seat, I'll take the back. So I get in the front seat, and I've got a 5-gallon bucket full of shells in between my legs on this thing, right? And he gave us the guns to shoot, and he had welded on like little fenders on the guns to where when they eject the shells, it dumps them in the floor. instead of ejecting like hot brass on the pilot, right? So we took off, and he starts going up and going up and going up, and then he goes straight up in the air, and I'm like, oh my God. And then he just sits down. And I was like, whew. And I'm thinking in my head, that's the moment he was talking about, right? No, he drops us like 25 feet, just boom. And then we just sit there, and I'm like, ooh. And then he just took off across the ranch. And I had my phone out, and I was videoing kind of as we went. He said, don't stick your phone out the window. And I said, okay. And then I looked at him, and I said, why not? He goes, well, how fast do you think we're going? And we're passing over the highway, and it looks like these cars are just standing still going across the highway. And I said, I don't know, maybe, 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. He goes, yeah, we're doing about 135. And I was like, oh, okay. So he took us straight across, and he would go to these cedar trees or draws, and the pigs and the cedar trees would just look like cockroaches. And this guy, what he does also on the side is he gathers cattle with his helicopter. And he started dropping that thing and dropping those blades, and he would literally herd the pigs out into an open field. And he would almost get them running in a straight line, and then he would turn us sideways and go, take them, boy. And you've all got the headset on, like you feel like it's real deal.
Top Gun over here.
I probably look like Barney Fife up there, but I felt legit. He's like, nice, take them, boys. And we're just boom, boom, boom. And we're shooting left and right, rolling pigs everywhere.
Did they name you Puckett Fuckett?
No. I was hurting. I had that shotgun, and it wasn't on my shoulder because you're shooting down, and so it was on my bicep more than anything. And dude, the next day I look down, that thing's black and blue, and I can barely move it. Man, it was a blast. If you have a chance to do a helicopter hog hunt, man, you definitely have to do it.
So he's supposed to be planning it, and I was like, yeah, let's freaking do it. So we're gonna there's 3 of us total on the team, and we're gonna go down a couple days early. And
how close does the helicopter get to the ground and so?
Man, there was some points I don't know. It was hard to judge in that moment. I would say maybe 50 feet was kind of the lowest that he got. He would drop us down, and he would.
Shooting buckshot?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I can't imagine you killing a pig with anything else other than buckshot.
It hurt. Let me tell you. It felt.
Oof.
You felt it every time you pulled the trigger.
That's freaking crazy. That'd be super fun. Nick, you'll have to when you go take my GoPro or something.
You're out there on one of the most prestigious ranches in Texas with one of the best dog trainers in the country, and you're running dogs one day on bobs and blues, and then you're shooting pigs out of the helicopter the next day. It was I peaked at age 30, I guess. I don't know that it
haven't done anything fun since.
I should just hang it up. It was one of the best experiences.
Just finding illegals in Mexico. That's all I'm doing now.
Yeah. No, I'm just getting my stuff stolen in Las Cruces.
Yeah, no shit.
No, that was one of the coolest 3 or 4 days of my entire life. It was awesome.
That's freaking wild, man.
And before
pigs aren't the only
people that owned it. It was awesome.
That's crazy. Well, pigs aren't the only thing you've ran into. We were talking on the phone before about those bobcats.
Oh yeah. So I haven't posted any pictures. I've been meaning to make a kind of a post about this. All right. So Nick hasn't heard this story. So
I have not.
All right. So this is like the second or third day out there in Arizona, right? And we had driven way back up, and we're up against some mountains, and decided all 3 of us were going to go our separate ways. And I had my dog Banjo and Cutter on the ground, both of which those dogs were in the side by side when it got stolen. And Banjo is probably the biggest dog I have, and if I had to pick one dog that you probably don't want to mess with, it's that guy. He's the biggest and he's the baddest. And so I had Banjo and Cutter out, and we're running and looking for blues, and so we decided to drop down in this wash to look for gambles. Right, I'd not found a covey of gambles yet. I had already had one run with Tonto where we had done 5 coveys of blues in one run, and so I decided to turn these 2 guys loose. So we're down in this wash, and like I don't know if y'all have been to Arizona, but when they say a wash, like it's like somebody took like a load of gravel and then just spread it perfectly with a skid steer. I mean, it's easy walking down those washes, and so. I had both of them down there. I'm looking for gambles. I had not seen a covey of gambles yet, so really didn't know what exactly to look for. This was, our first trip to Arizona. So I'm running both dogs, and Cutter, he's 8. He's like the happiest-go-lucky dog in the world, man. You could not find a dog with a better temperament than him. You put him on the ground every time, and he's not going to find more birds than like your best dog, but he's just going to go do his job every time, and he's going to find you birds, and it's just going to be easy. Like you could hand the transmitter to literally anybody, and he's the way to go. So he's out there running. So he comes in for a drink. So I took my water bottle out. I'm giving him a drink, and Banjo was right behind me, and Banjo can have a mind of his own sometimes. You know, he's that dog that when you're hunting the prairie and you look across the prairie and you're like, that field is really big, and I don't feel like walking it. That you look out there 5 minutes later, and he's just going, boom, 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 boom. And you're like, okay, no birds. Good. All right, appreciate you. So I brought him in, and I called him to me to give him some water. So he stops behind me, and he never comes around to the front. And so I'm standing there, and I'm giving Cutter some water. And all of a sudden, I hear the nastiest, most evil-sounding, horrible growl out of any dog that I've ever owned. And I'm like, I mean, it like gave me goosebumps because, I mean, like I said, he's the biggest and the baddest, and I whip around, and I'm like, what is happening? And he's standing there, and he is just blowed up. I mean, hair on the back of his neck standing up. I mean, he's jacked, and his teeth are out. Every single one of his teeth are out, and he is just giving me this nasty, throaty growl. And I'm thinking, he's going to rip my throat out right here in this wash. And I look down at him really quick, and he is looking straight up in the air. And I'm like, this dog's lost his mind. What is happening? And I look up, and about 10 feet above, there was a tree, and about 10 feet above me, there is a bobcat in this tree that is just, I mean, we made eye contact. This thing's ears are pinned back. There was 2 of them. There was 2 bobcats in this tree. One is way up high, and it was smaller, and it's just kind of wrapped around the tree like, I don't know what to do here. And the one that was lower was like, I'm going to jump on you, and I'm going to kill you. And I was giving the dogs water, so my gun's broke open with no shells in it. It's on my shoulder, and I'm like, I was kind of frozen for a second. I'm like, oh my, like, what is happening right now? And so I slowly reach down, I grab Banjo, and I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, if this thing jumps, do I like try to catch it with the shotgun and throw it and then let Banjo deal? Like, it's 3-on-1 at this point, which Cutter the whole time is just tails wagging. He's getting water. He has no idea. He's oblivious to everything that is happening. And so I grab Banjo, and we start back. I start pulling him back. And that thing, there was a large one that was lower. And that was the one, it crawled through the tree and went all the way up to the other side of the tree and jumped out of the tree like 15, 20 feet into the brush, and it ran off and was gone. And then the other one, the smaller one, just kind of stayed up there, up high in the tree, and it was just kind of watching us. So I grabbed Banjo and pulled him out and kind of turned both dogs loose, and I'm standing there videoing the smaller one kind of crawl out of the tree, which was claw marks all on this tree, so you could tell they had climbed up and down it quite a bit. And I'm standing there with my phone videoing it, and my Garmin goes, vroom, vroom, and I pick it up. Both dogs are on point, like 50, 60 yards behind me, and I just hear birds flushing, and I turn around, and a whole covey of gambles like exploded out of this tree while I'm videoing this bobcat. It was great.
Man, that's freaking crazy. I can't imagine. I've never come across a bobcat.
Man, I actually came across. So that was the first bobcat I've come across while I was hunting. I actually came across a mountain lion in Kansas about 12 years ago. And that was that was terrifying.
How close were you to that one?
So me and my buddy Daniel were hunting this draw, and man, there was a ton of deer. It was in Kansas. They were piling out of this thing, and I had a short hair on the ground. Actually, Abby, my very first dog, and she's just kind of trotting through. There was deer were just piling out of this thing, and all of a sudden she was running, and I kind of looked to my left, and she had kind of come in, so she was probably 20, 25 yards from me, and I just heard this scream, and I look over, and there's like a mountain lion coming out of the grass, and it was like the classic like teeth bagged it, and she freaking jumped out of her skin, and she scared it scared her, and it took off running, and I had another short hair named Tucker at the time, and he decided to take off after it, and I'm like nailing him like, that is not the kitty cat you want to catch, buddy. And so I finally brought him back. But yeah, that's the only two times. I mean, obviously we come across pigs fairly frequently down in Texas, but that's the only two times I've come across anything like that.
Do those pigs, do they like attack your dogs at all, or?
Man, so I've never had a hog go after one of my dogs. It was funny, in Arizona, we ended up hunting a friend of ours' ranch the very last day we were there. And so Philip and Sammy go one way, and I go the other way. And it sounds like World War III going on over here. And I'm like, gosh dang it. Like, these guys found the birds, and I've got Marie on the ground running in one direction, and I just hear boom, boom, and whatever going on. So we get back to the truck. We both circle back to the truck, and I'm like, well, Philip, you find all the birds over there, buddy? He's like, nope. Turned into a little bit of a rodeo. And I'm like, well, what happened? And they had run into a group of javelinas. And I don't know if you know anything about javelinas. Javelinas are more aggressive than actual hogs are. They're smaller, but they are more aggressive. And kind of their go-to is if one of your dogs starts to chase some javelina, there are some javelina that will actually come back and peel around and come back behind your dogs, and they'll take their tusk and rip their hamstrings and Achilles if they can.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they go for their back legs, yeah. Ronnie Smith, he had a super nice setter named Danny, and they had ripped his whole hamstring, and if I remember correctly, in the back of his leg. And so, yeah.
That's freaking wild.
So those things Philip had some attack, like charge him. And he's like, he's got a, side by or over and under, and he unloaded both shells on him. And he said, well, there's a few running away with 7.5 shot in them, but we lived through the whole thing.
My wife and I, a few years, got to have been 7 years ago, I believe now. We went hiking out in Yellowstone National Park, Grand Tetons, tent camped all around there, and of course I had
tried to pet a bison.
I had a handgun on. I had a handgun on me and bear spray, and didn't see anything the whole time, and we were tent camping and whatnot. So finally we were like, one day we were going hiking, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to take anything. Well, I'll be damned if we didn't run into 3 bear on this fucking trail. Yeah, one, we were going down, and people were coming up, and all of a sudden a bear pops up out of the grass, like you couldn't see him, and he was standing on his back legs looking down, and then he dropped down, and we had no idea where he went, so we turned around and started heading back up the hill. And then the other one, we heard something downside the hill, like we couldn't hardly see it, but we looked over, and it was, I don't know if it was a grizzly or what it was. It was a bear or a black bear. It was brown though, so I'm guessing it was a grizzly, a baby one, because it wasn't very big, but he was right below us. My wife takes off running. I'm like, don't you fucking run, because if he sees us, I'm like, he's gonna chase us down. She's like, why did you bring your shit with you?
And if he starts chasing us, honey, I can outrun you, and you're gonna be the
I can't outrun you, so you're done.
If I need to throw the children at him, I'll throw the children.
Yeah, so it was, so I learned my lesson on that. I was like, Jesus.
The last night we were in Arizona, we actually stayed in Wilcox at a friend of ours. He has a ranch around that area, and we stayed with him. I was picking up a dog for him to take back to be trained in Oklahoma. So we stayed with him, and he had a bunkhouse, which was really a really neat place, and then there were some folks that lived in this house right next to it. And so when we came back from dinner that night, Philip and Sammy went inside, and I kind of went over and talked to them. And they had They had a Great Pyrenees outside with several other dogs, and then you could hear like some hound dogs barking in the back. They also had a pet goat that had a collar on that would literally walk up to the door, and if like we didn't shut the door good enough, this goat would just ram the door open, and you would hear like this bang, and you would turn around, and you're like getting out of the shower, and you like look into the living room, and here comes like this goat just trotting down the hall, like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" You're like, "All right, goat, get out." In fact, Philip thought at one point, I think he was in bed, and he thought me and Sammy were jacking with him, like banging on his door outside. It was the freaking goat sleeping on like the doormat outside of his room. But anyway, so we've gone through everything in Las Cruces, and we had a day where our first day that we were supposed to hunt got completely rained out, and then so we didn't get to hunt at all. We hung around the Airbnb that we had there, and the second day we hunted Mearns, and that was interesting. We had to take the truck and trailer. We took the side by side, so we didn't have to go down all these terrible roads. Well, we took the truck and trailer up there and hauling that stuff through those roads that you weren't planning on pulling them through. Poor Philip, his truck and trailer's just getting beat to smithereens up there. And then the next day we hunted, and we went all the way to this back area, tried to get out, and Google Maps, Philip's driving, and I'm like, all right, Google Maps shows the quickest way out of here through Onyx is all the way back out here, and it'll take you to the interstate. And poor guy, he followed me, and we had to go through a couple river bottoms, and we finally got all the way out. We could literally see the blacktop, right? Like it's right in front of us, and somebody had put in a gate and chain and lock. And when I tell you we were way, way in the back of this thing, we had to back that truck and trailer at least a half a mile to get out. Then we saw lights on in this house, and I'm like, according to Onyx, these are the people that owned where the gate is, so maybe they'll let us out. Went up there, they weren't home. We had to back all the way. I mean, we started at 5:45. I think we tried to go eat dinner at like 8:50, and the restaurant was closed, and we ended up eating at Chili's of all places. The next day we went out, we did one run, found some blues for a dog that Philip really wanted to get on some birds, got back to the truck, and a tire was leaking out the sidewall. And the town that we were close to had no tire shops, had to drive all the way back into big town and have the tire changed out. It was like kind of one thing after another. And so, we finally get to this
the shittiest trip ever.
I mean, it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. We kind of looked at each other.
I'm just coming to the conclusion that I would never hunt with you.
No, I don't blame you. On this trip, I don't blame you whatsoever. And I'm so thankful that it was with Philip and Sammy, because there's other guys that I could have been on that trip with where it would have been miserable. And at this point, all three of us are just kind of throwing our arms up and laughing, like, what's gonna come next? Like, what else can we do? And we all had a great time, but. We finally get to this private ranch, and this guy's like, yeah, you can stay in my bunkhouse. It's just on the other side of the mountains. And so we followed him through this pass all the way back up behind 2 locked gates and all this stuff. And we went to dinner and came back, and we're staying there, and I'm talking to this wife and her husband. I'm like, hey, we're just finally glad that we're in a place that we don't have to worry about stuff getting broken into. We feel safe and secure here. And the husband's like, yeah. The only thing you got to worry about here is the bears coming out of the mountains. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I saw I had a bear on a game cam about 300 yards behind the house over there. So Philip and Sammy are already getting ready for bed. I walked in. I said, Philip, I got good news. Your stuff's not going to get stolen here. We're behind 2 gates. I said, but apparently there's like bear that live right in this. They found like this big den, and there was a bunch of bear in it, and so he'd been hunting some bear with his hound dogs. And Philip's like, oh my God, at this point you just want to go home. Like,
I'm going home.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a blast, and Arizona is amazing, and New Mexico, parts of New Mexico that you can hunt are great. And we found a lot of birds, and there's a lot of birds out there. But we all talked about it, and we were like, look, this is obviously the roughest trip any of us have ever had. Ever. And I don't know that it gets a whole lot worse than this. But with what we've learned off this first trip, if we were to do this trip over, like in a month from now, with all the knowledge we have now, like everything's going to go way smoother and everything's going to go way better. And, we're going to have a good time. So we'll definitely go back. It was a good trip all around. Just happy to
that sounds like it. Oh, man, what's some freaking experiences, man. So, Matt, we appreciate you coming on the podcast. We're just right at an hour now, and crazy awesome stories.
Yeah.
Might have to have you back on because I feel like there's a lot more that we
a lot more to cover.
So
we just hit the
sorry about the
tip of the iceberg.
The technical difficulties early. Jesus, I don't know I don't know what's going on. I'll have to figure that out. But
Nick said that he was the beauties and he was the beauty and you were supposed to be the brains. So
and the brains weren't here, unfortunately. It kind of sounds like your trip. They just wasn't there.
It is what it is. You just throw up your hand and make the best of it.
You show up and my computer's not working. My God. So awesome. Well, again, we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming on.
Have a great night.
Hey, no problem, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good one.